Hey, how's it going? Okay, we're about to get into the second position strategy thing. So, let me first start by telling a story. Okay, so back in 2010, I had been playing, early 2010, I've been playing Baccarat for roughly 6 months or so, maybe seven. And as I said in a couple other videos before, especially my Bach Talk videos, how any game I played, as I played it, everything, strategy, system, whatever I developed for any game I played was based on common occurrences. So trying to find a good way to really play Bach, I started looking at what was common occurrences. And I started noticing like how second position was strong. Now, I'm going to explain more about what second position is. But in doing that, I started really, so when I see things that I feel are common occurrence, I start putting it into study. And then once I put it into study, depending on the results of that, then I adopted it. I adopt the strategies or system, whatever, behind it. So that's what I did with second position. And while I was doing this study and developing the study, I became friends with this guy, Mario. Now, Mario, I've heard about him because I knew his girlfriend and being in the casino scene. I don't know how frequent you all are to the casino and what the casino's like in your area, but in the Chicago area, once you get to hanging in the casino, especially if you was coming in from Chinatown, Chicago, on a bus, you got to know a lot of people and everybody kind of know everybody. But once you're planted in the casino, whatever game you play, you get to know a lot of people and all that. So I knew Mario's girlfriend, and then who later became his ex-girlfriend. So I was always hearing this name Mario. And we became cool in late 2010, like November. And watching him play and him watching my play, I started noticing how he would talk about betting second position. Well, at that time, I was actually calling it second line because if you notice, these are columns and these are lines. I was calling it second line. So I kind of adopted the second position thing from him because it was like that showed me I was on to something. I got this second line thing that I'm betting he calls it second position. So I kind of adopted the second position thing because I kind of liked the way that sounded better than second line, you know. So since we both, without knowing each other personally, had this same idea about betting second, I knew I was on to something. So I did a study on it, and I realized some things about the second position. So with that being said, let me go into explaining what second position is. Bear with me here. So, and like I said, I'm pulling stuff off from online, so let me move this around. This ain't what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm pulling stuff from online, and I'm not using anything but graphs I find online. So I want to show you all what second position is. So this is a casino scoreboard. Now, this section here of the board, this is the main board that shows the whole shoe. And the second position is basically here. So here you had a second bank. You missed second position here, player chop, second bank. It went tie here, so that counts as a second position tie. Then you got a second bank and all of that. So now this right here is second position. Now these other boards, this has nothing to do with second position. Only on this main board here can you say second position. Now let me tell you what the strategy is all about. So when I started noticing that second position, strengths of second position, I did a study of it. What I found is that with second position, on average is about 50-60%. Well, but I actually say 55% is second position. I'll explain that later. I consider second position to be 55% because the 50-60% is actually, you could get 5 hits in a row or whatever, or 5 hits, whatever, of solid banker, player, banker, player. Banker 5, or it could be banker, player, banker, tie, banker, like that. So that's where the 55 comes in. And I'll explain that later. Still a second position hit if it's a tie, but all that we'll get into later. So now, basically, I started charting. I started doing study of this, and I came up with this system regarding the second position, which is here. And I'm going to go right into that whole second position betting strategy now. So now here's the Baccarat scorecard. And let me tell you how this strategy works. So first of all, you have to have a scorecard. You have to play at the beginning of the shoe. Now, the way this strategy works is that based on my studies, I know the second position on average is about 55%. Now, we could say 50, 60%, but I'll explain all of that. So knowing that it's 55%, the way you do this, the way you play this is you get these scorecards. You have to be at the beginning of the shoe. Before the shoe starts, what you want to do is you want to count 10 columns. 10 is how we get our percentage. So these are columns right here going down. Going down, these are columns. You want to count 10 of these. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns. Now, those 10 columns right here in the fifth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right here with the fifth and the sixth, you want to draw a line there. It's a reason why we draw a line, a thick line, to divide the 10 columns into 2 halves. And I'll explain that. So with second position, we know the second position based upon my study is 55%, let's say. 50 to 60%, whatever. So that means on either, when you divide those 2 halves, on either side of those halves, you want to say to yourself, well, I own 5 of these 10 squares. So you got 10 columns, second position, 10 second position that you're looking to own 5 to 6 of those. 5 to 6, because that's the average of second position. Now, it's 50 to 60%, but the reason I say 55 is, and I'm going to explain that right now. So when I developed this system with second position, I started noticing how you would get like a banker would come here, then second position bank would hit. Then whenever it chopped, it might have ran whatever on that bank, then it chopped, player would come in second position. And then whenever that chopped, banker would come in and it'd be a tie. Now, that's still a second position hit. And then along the way, out of those 10 columns, the second position would have maybe 5 banker player hits and 1 tie hit, or it might have 6 banker player hits and 1 tie hit. So I said, well, ties have to be accounted for, because what happens with a tie is, it does have a benefit to you whether you bet it or not. So the way I did the system and what I devised was that this is how we would count ties, how I would count ties, and anybody that I tell the system to, is that if the tie hits and you bet ties and you bet that tie at that time and you won, the tie second position is valued at 10%, just like banker and player. So all banker and player hits are valued at 10%. Why 10%? Because we have 10 columns. We're using 10 to represent 100, and anything within that 10 represents a percentage of that 100. So if you have a banker here, and the second bank comes, and there's second bank, second players that total up to about 5 hits, that's where you get the 50%. Now with the ties, if you bet them, they count as 10%. But because ties have a benefit for people that don't even bet them, you don't lose to them, it's a push. If a tie shows up in second position, whether you bet it, if you didn't bet it, or you don't bet ties or not, or you just happen to not have bet the tie then, it counts as 5% to you. So any tie that you catch in the second position counts as 10%. Any tie that you don't catch is 5%. And that's how we do ties, because ties, obviously, if you catch it in the second position, it's a win. It pays you. So that's why it's 10%. It's the same value. It holds the same value as any second position banker or player, which is 10%. But if you did not bet the tie and the tie hits in the second position is considered 5%. So that is where you get the 55%, because I could have said second position valued at 10%, but if a tie comes up, I have to respectfully say that a tie is only 5%, whether you bet it or not, just for the sake of explaining this system and just for the sake of not knowing, not betting, you have to say 5%. But for those that bet it and hit it, is 10%. So now with that being through, so let me tell you about second position, the whole thing about second position, and why I even took the system further. Okay, after meeting Mario, seeing how we both was kind of on the same page with this, in my studies of second position, when I found, I need to go back to the chart I had. Yeah, the chart. What I discovered was second position is the only position that can occupy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns with either a solid banker player hit, like you see, we see here, but we got a couple of misses, or a solid banker player or tie hit. Because remember, ties still count for second position. Hold on, let me get my chart back up there. Ties still count for second position. So second position, what I noticed, second position, only one where you can get 100%. I've even seen this go 14 in a row. But we don't count the 14 row, because I'm going to explain that with the system. That becomes a different charting block. I'll explain charting blocks to you. So that is why I adopted this whole second position betting system, because when I noticed that you could get 10 columns of these full, that's when I said, hey, this is worth studying. And the thing about second position, what I noticed, when second position is strong, second position makes other positions strong, generally in shoes. So you'll see third position maybe at 40. I've even seen third position here at 50%, when second position was like 80, 90% on a shoe. So yeah. So let's start talking about the position. You got first position, which is always going to be your first hand after the chop. So here was a banker. It went second position. This is third position. This is fourth position. This is fifth position, sixth position. And these would be all your run positions in your column right here. And run positions, I call them run positions because these are not going to be as common as your charting, but they do happen. Now, with second position, in this particular board, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10. That is remember I said the average is 50 to 60%? This one actually met the average of 60%. So now let me go into the betting. So what you do is, like I said, you draw a line. You count 10 of these. You draw a line between the fifth and the sixth. And what you're saying is, when you're playing, the shoe begins, opens up. You're saying, you're waiting on that first hand, and you're saying to yourself, I own 3 columns on this side, 3 columns on that side, due to the second position being 55, 60%, whatever, 55, 50 to 60%. Or you're either saying you own 2 over here and 3 over there. So that's what your betting is going to be based on. It's going to be a table minimum or greater bet that, if you lose, you're going to martingale on the fact that you might win, or either just flat bet again that you're supposed to win. You know that you should own these columns. And the only way you're going to not catch those columns is second position is underserved, is not average. Now, in Baccarat, you got shoes where second position is average a lot. You got a lot of shoes where second position is greater than average. And there are shoes where second position will be below average. A below average shoe should still typically give you a second position. But here's the kind of shoe that you have to watch out for. And that's what I call a straight arrow shoe. Now, y'all say, what is a straight arrow shoe? It's a term I've developed for any shoe in a charting block. And that's the thing. I'm going to explain charting blocks for you, because a straight arrow shoe is not a shoe where you see. A straight arrow shoe is basically, in your charting block, is 10 straight second position columns of column. 10 straight second position squares of no second position. So if you just see banker, player, no second position for 10 straight, that's what you call a straight arrow shoe. It's very rare. The last time I've ever sat on a table using the second position strategy and seen a straight arrow shoe, I would say I've seen it maybe 3 times. And I've been doing the second position system since 2000, and roughly, I developed it more toward 2010. So I actually started utilizing it in 2011, early 2011. And I might have seen 3 at the most, maybe 4 straight arrow shoes where I'm sitting there charting and I can't catch a position for 10 columns. That's called a straight arrow shoe. That is your worst case scenario. But generally, in just about every baccarat shoe, you will get a second position. For all you people that are about martingale and all that, the second position strategy is probably your best to do that because there aren't many straight arrow shoes out there. Now, let me explain what a charting block is because this is very important. With this system, we do 10 columns. Because why? Because like I said, 10 is 100%. The whole second position strategy based on the fact that average second position is 55, 60%, 50, 60%, and that you should own 5 to 6 squares, whether they come 3 on this side, 3 on the other side. That's why we divide a line, because depending on how the flow of this is going, this first half, that's going to determine how we bet the next half, or if we even bet any of those columns at all. Maybe we just, like we just made, like if one half is going rough, to avoid being caught up in a straight arrow shoe, you might sit out the other half, or either bet, instead of betting every 5 of them, maybe 2 out of the 5, So a charting block is basically your 10 columns that you're charting. Now, a typical 8-deck shoe, I think, produces, I haven't used the system in a minute, 2.5 charting blocks. I think sometimes you can get 3 depending on how the shoe flows. But the reason why we do a charting block is because this is a separate 100 from the next 100. So if you got 80 hands in the shoe, you're gonna chart each one from the beginning in 10 columns. So your 10 columns are gonna appear like this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's your charting block there. Now, with the same card, you can do your next charting block, but just make sure you don't start right up on it. Leave you about 2 spaces, maybe 3, and then get you another 10 column. That'll be your next charting block. Because this right here is your run positions, you don't chart down here, because this is part of these are the part of the column. The columns don't stop here. They go all the way down. So you have to get you another scorecard. Get you another scorecard for the next charting block. And that's how you do it. Get you 10 columns, divide your line in half, and you're saying to yourself, I own 6 squares, whether it come 4 over here, 4 over there, and that's how you're betting. When you bet this first, if it hits player here, and you go for the second player, you got to keep in mind it might miss. So you can martingale here, or whatever, or just flat bet the same amount. But in any case, the goal is that you're expecting to win the average of these, which is 5 to 6 out of that 10. And if you're hoping, what you're really hoping for, is above average second position shoe where you win. Now, you might ask, how often does above average second position shoe happen? It happens a lot more than a straight arrow shoe comes through. And probably a lot more than below average shoe come from. But keep in mind, that's based on the charting block. Because just because this charting block is strong in second position don't mean that your next charting block will. So keep that in mind. You might have a shoe that opens up really strong on second position, but by the time you move to your next charting block, the second position is not strong. So let's see, where else we want to cover about second position. Oh, I want to show you show you some things. What am I doing here? We go here, we go here. So here's a scoreboard right here. And as you can see, this shoe opened up with a second position and a third position here. The player chop, but you got second position here. You got 3 chops in a row here. Then you got second position there. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you only got, this was a below average second position for this particular charting block. You only got 4 out of 10. So for this charting block, which ended here, because here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which would, your charting block would have ended here. This is below average. But as you came to your next charting block, which is here, the charting block would have started here and went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Would have came here. It would have ended here. This charting block went average with several second position hits in a row, 4 of them. So that's where we're talking about. So that's what the second position is all about. So this is what we're talking. If you look in here, let me make sure I get that in good. So this went second position here, and the charting block would have ended here. When you're charting on those cards that they have at the table, you would have had it in here, and this would have been below average, but you still would have got 4 second position hits. This here will be a new charting block right here. You would have got 4 in a row, missed 1 in here. Let me see if I can find a chart where second position is kind of above average. Let me see how I would do that. I think I have one. Let me see. I think I have one somewhere here. Nope. Above average. This would be one here. If I can get a big picture of it. Get a large picture of it. Okay, I can't get a large picture there, but I'm going to show you here. This would have been above average. Okay. So, I don't know how good you all can see this one. I should have actually had this ready for you. My apology. Well, let me try this one. Because this is really above average here. Okay. Yeah, see, this one is really above average. So there's a second position hit here in your first column. So your charting block would have went like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as you can see, out of that 10, second position only missed twice. You had 80% second position. When your next charting block started here, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's count. So that's 5 right there. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You would have got, it would have went below average. So that's what I'm saying. Like you can have a charting block strong, you have one below, but in any case, as you can see, the new charting block starts here. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, charting block would have started here. So you had 1, 2, 3. There's 4, 5, 6, 4. You would have got 4 out of the, in the next chart, about 4 out of the 10. But nevertheless, it's still second position is present. You know, if you have to manage your betting in a way where you benefit from those 4, where you actually get a win from those 4. For, like I say, for those who like the martingale, the second position system is the best because it's an event that you know you should be able to get for the most part, unless it's a straight arrow shoe, which is very rare. And let me explain the straight arrow shoe. Let's say we had none of this here. There was no second position here, and it went 10 columns as opposed to hitting 8 times to the second position. which is above average second position hit. Let's just say this is 6, so here's 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say this was 10 empty columns. That's a straight arrow shoe because it's 10 empty squares of second position, 10 empty squares of second position in the same charting block. But if you was to see something like, let's say you just walked up and looked at the board and saw something that ran from here to here with no second position, that is not a straight arrow shoe, 10 of these, because it's one charting block that lapped over to, it's a straight arrow situation, but it lapped over to the next charting blocks, but that technically doesn't count as a straight arrow shoe. It has to all occur 10 empty second positions in the same charting block. The reason for that is because once you start your new charting block, if it's chopping 4 in your last charting block and it's going here and it's chopped 4, that has nothing to do with that other side. That has nothing to do, because if its second position picks up, then that charting block is a winner for you. So a straight arrow shoe only refers to 10 empty second positions in the same charting block, not one that goes over. If you look at a board and you say, oh man, that went 10 times without second position, that system ain't shit. No, if you don't know what charting block is starting in, if it's the same charting block, that wouldn't be true. Okay, so keep that in mind. And straight arrow shoes are rare. Like I said, I've probably seen 3, maybe 4. And I've been using this system since 2011, developed it in late 2010. So, yeah, this would be above average second position. So now let's just say you're the type of person like me, you like to press and you really believe in second position. So this would be, let's say if you started with $25 and you said, okay, I got 25 to 50, boom, I'm pressing here to 100, boom, I'm pressing here to 200, then you break it back down. You start over, let's say with 30. You made some money here. You miss here, but you got, your bankroll, right, to make it back up here. Like whatever you bet here, as long as you don't bet something that's going to kill you, you can come back and make it here. This is above average. This is the kind of shoes that you can see a lot of. But the interesting thing about this is there's no ties here. A lot of times when second position gets strong, sometimes there's always a tie somewhere in there. So you could see 70% second position that's supported by 2 ties. Remember, I told you ties are 5% if you don't bet them and you didn't catch it in that second position. But if you catched it in that second position, it's 10%. So if you got 2 ties, 5 and 5 is 10%, and you got 6 of these regular banker player hits, 70%, but this is actually one that went 80% without ties coming along. This is pretty good. I feel like I'm leaving some stuff out that I want to cover about second position. I know a lot of people are gonna be asking me questions about betting strategies, like how about betting progressions and all that other stuff. Like I said, if you're the type of person you want to start off betting $15, $25, $50, and you got the bankroll, the martingale is the best system for that. Or if you want a flat bet on flat bet, and then for 2 losses and then martingale is the best system for that, because it's the kind of system where you should catch a second position hit, because even below average second position will give you 3 second position hits, what's a tie in the second position, a solid banker, a solid player hit. That's what's good about this system. It's an event that is going to happen unless it's a straight arrow shoe. And keep in mind, a straight arrow shoe is a shoe where in your charting block, all 10 second positions are missing. They missed. Okay, a straight arrow shoe is not a shoe that you walk up to a baccarat table and you see where there's no second position for 10 positions in a row, because that could be within 2 charting blocks. So that doesn't count. It only counts if it's within the same charting block. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and end this video, because if there's any questions, that's really going to help me realize what I've might have forgot to talk about or whatever. So peace to everybody. Hope you all get a pretty decent understanding of what I was talking about. And hit me up in the comments. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you.